Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Roast. It's Sunday the 3rd of April and the sun is shining after what feels like 4 seasons in 1 week with actual snow on the ground earlier in the week. What's it like over there, Kev? Don't tell me it's about 40 degrees in Egypt right now.
Well, right now it's about 36 degrees and going to go up to about 38 in the next week. So just in time for the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
They decide to turn the oven up. So
I mean, that's just pretty depressing considering I'm going away next week and it's probably may even only just touch 9 or 10 degrees. But I mean, it's a bit boring, isn't it, talking weather? It's very British, but it's always a focus of our points, isn't it, these days?
No, I can see that I've been testing the water in the swimming pool each day this week now. So the kids are desperate to jump in. So I would say 2 or 3 days of high 30s and swimming pool will be on the cards, I'm afraid. So, yeah.
It's a hard life, isn't it? Today, we're joined by Michael Frayne, CEO of Capital Metals. Welcome, Michael. How are you doing?
Well, thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me here.
So let's talk Capital Metals then. I mean, focused on the development of the Eastern Minerals Project located in the eastern province of Sri Lanka, one of the highest grade mineral sands projects globally. Basically, do you want to tell the listeners what mineral sands are and the uses for them, including rutiles?
Thanks, Phil. No, mineral sands are something that we all interact, a part of every day of our lives. When people talk about a mineral sands deposit, there's 3 main minerals that you talk about, plus a few other, depending on the characteristics of the deposit, other minerals that may be involved. For our project, the Eastern Minerals Project, we have the 3 main minerals that you often find, which are rutile and ilmenite. And they're both what you call TiO2 or titanium dioxide minerals. That's the main element that's of interest for those minerals. That's the economic mineral component of those minerals. And they are used for rutile and ilmenite, are essentially used for making the pigment for all paint. So whenever you think of mineral sands, you think of paint for the rutile and ilmenite. So anyone who's interacted with paint, which is basically everyone in the entire world, has had some. That's the impact that they have. The next mineral that you have is called zircon, and zircon is used in the manufacture of ceramics. So anyone who's got a bathroom, tiling, kitchens, basins, again, it's one of those minerals that is just part and parcel of everyday life. So that's when you hear about mineral sands, they're the main minerals that you think about. Our project also has a commercial quantity of garnet. And this is garnet's when it's a large mineral, it can be a semi-precious stone, but this is the fine garnet, which is used as an abrasive. As you know, it's sort of 1 down in the hardness scale from diamonds. So it's used originally it was on sandpaper, but for things like sandblasting, industrial abrasives, and they actually use it for like water cutting. So when you need to cut things where you don't want to use heat to cut metals, and that's actually a component where cutting plastics or specialty composite materials. And which is quite important now because that's one of the big uses when they're making electrical vehicles. There's the demand for garnet for water cutting as a special process is quite in demand. So there are 4 main minerals, and but basically paints, bathrooms, and kitchens are what you think of when you think of mineral sands. So
looking over your shoulder now at that white wall there, the pigment in that is effectively from that titanium oxide from that rutile, right?
Yes.
One of the biggest uses is within paints and pigments, right?
Yes, so that's one of the main uses. Then there's obviously titanium as a specialty metal, and certain titanium dioxide minerals are used to make titanium metals. The aerospace industry, aeroplanes and so forth, uses a lot of that. There's also, and obviously specialty alloys and so forth for titanium. But for our product, it'll be our off-takers will be people who be looking to use it to make paint. The other thing, obviously, with paint or ceramics is it's not recyclable. So once you use that, it's not like you make it, you can scrap it and then use it again. It's chemically altered when they make the pigment and go forth.
Sure. I think there's also uses within the welding industry, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, titanium has a lot of industrial uses and so forth. But but for the minerals that we have, they're 99% certain they're going to go into paint.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your background, Michael, as well? What got you into this industry?
Well, I'm from Perth, Western Australia. So
Yep.
That's obviously a large mining centre. So that's growing up here, you are surrounded by the mining and natural resources sector, obviously very large agriculture and also oil and gas sector here. My background, I was actually a chartered accountant working for a large chartered accounting firm in Australia. Obviously looked at a lot of different industries. I had studied a bit of geology at school, and when I qualified as an accountant, I thought, well, I'd actually prefer to be on sort of the other side of the ledger, pardon the pun, and went back and finished my geology degree and became an exploration geologist. So my background is really working in projects like this, where you're taking things from maybe grassroots through to resource, feasibility, and into production. Sure. I've done a lot of different minerals over the years and natural resource sectors, and I find that's really my background. So it's something that I have been doing for nearly over 25 years now.
So since sort of coming to market, and obviously from the name change of the previous company, you've delivered a very important milestone. I think that was in 2021, the approval of the environmental impact assessment. And then there was obviously an announcement recently where you issued an additional exploration license to further extend the Eastern Minerals project 12 kilometres to the north. Do you want to tell us about these important milestones?
Sure. Look, this company was private for some time. We brought it to market in January last year, and we see ourselves as a near-term producer, but we are in those sort of final stages where we have to get a series of government approvals and other processes in place. Now, one of the biggest milestone any mining project has to do to get up and running is your environmental approval. That's a detailed, comprehensive study with a whole lot of stakeholders involved in that, a lot of public consultation, a lot of all sorts of studies on flora, fauna, tidal movements, weather, communities, how a comprehensive rehabilitation, a comprehensive study. So that is a very, very important document for any company to get approved, and our project approval is part of that. And it took us about 4 years to get that done. I think it took longer than it should have because we were right in the thick of the government consultation period during COVID, so we lost a fair bit of time on that. But look, we're very, very fantastic team in Sri Lanka and other advisors working as part of that got that approved in November last year, and that's really sort of then enabled us to now move forward with all the next steps to finalise the final permitting steps that we're required to do, and also start now updating our plans to really try and get into production as quickly as possible. So that was a big step for us last year, and there's a number of things we're now able to sort of work on the back of that, which we're looking to form part of our news flow over the coming period. And then the second announcement we had, obviously, we have a 50 kilometres of strike on our project area for our existing resource. We've only explored probably 10% of our current exploration licenses, but we also, our knowledge of our understanding of the deposition types and so forth has increased. So we've extended, we know there's further mineralisation to the north of our project, which is potential for increase in resources, mine life, and so forth. And so we were able to, and whilst I was in Sri Lanka last week, we were granted the extension of our 12-kilometre extension to our project. So we've got some very exciting and interesting places that we want to go now and explore and look to add to our current resource.
Michael, tell me just a little bit about this resource in terms of its availability in the world.
The prices for the mineral sands products have all increased quite significantly over the last 18 months. There is like a lot of commodities, people have realised the importance of the supply of these commodities, and the demand has increased, whether it's because everyone's at home during COVID painting their houses and renovating their bathrooms, it's that I think that has had an impact. But there is definitely globally, the demand seems to have increased quite markedly in the last 5 years. So in terms of the actual demand for the product, that's been quite significant. Now, as you're probably aware, with a lot of resource projects or large globally in terms of resources, there's been quite a lot of underinvestment. So there's no real big new projects for a lot of these commodities coming on at all. And a lot of the existing producers, a large one is Richards Bay Minerals in South Africa. The Aluka, which is, and some of the groups is a very large Australian mineral sands producer. A lot of their mines have become more mature. and therefore the production has been declining. So there's been a supply, not only a demand increase, but also the supply side seems to have tailed off. There is production out of Ukraine, which is impacted in the short term because that's obviously been disrupted. But as you know, when demand increases and supply doesn't increase or is actually falling, that has an impact where the demand for the prices are stronger, and the outlook is continuing to remain strong. So we're in a good space, really, where we'd like to get into production as quickly as possible, and we think we've got the advantage to take that to take advantage of those strong prices. The other interesting thing is it's not just what the price is today. Part of what we're doing over the coming period is obviously discussions with potential off-takers. And typically with mineral sands, it's not like gold, you just sell into a spot market. There are reference pricings, but you generally have longer term off-takes with people. And they are, as we discussed, the people who make pigment and paint producers and obviously ceramic suppliers as well. So they are, the feedback we've had is they're all very concerned about their security of supply. So there's a lot of interest for us in terms of how we put this project together and potential funding options where they'll help us to finance the project into production in exchange for offtake. So we've seen not only strong prices, we've also seen a lot of interest in people wanting to help us get into production so they can have a security of supply.
I think outside of the Western world, we don't quite realise this shift from rural to urban in terms of literally millions of billions of people, especially in Asia and different parts of the world, because there's probably going to be more than 1 billion more people 10 years from now living in urban areas than are living in rural areas, because that shift has been happening now for maybe 2 decades, but now it's coming home to roost because effectively there has been total uninvestment or there hasn't been enough investment in all of these areas, not just this, but in sure. Many of the different things. We've seen the same in copper, we've seen the same in nickel maybe, and the world suddenly thinks we can just go to EV very quickly, when actually the resources maybe aren't there. And this is the same situation, isn't it? Because everybody who moves to the city is suddenly going to want porcelain sink and painted apartment as opposed to something in rural area that doesn't happen. So that's very interesting what you say about the off-takers. So how far advanced are those off-taking discussions then?
Essentially, we've got a number of off-takers who would like to sign up with us now, if possible. We are updating our development plan and our economics. And the development plan is important because we don't want to commit to an off-take. We want to update our production plans and so forth, so we can say, look, guys, this is what we're actually intending to produce. So let's make sure that fits in with what they require and that works. So we're doing that information at the moment, but they've visited site, the number of these off-takers. We've sent samples to them and they've tested and said, yes, this is suitable to what we want to do. So they're progressing well, and we're looking to advance those again. That's just an ongoing work program for us at the moment. So I think the interesting discussion is going to be with them is what we need. This is our funding, our capital CapEx requirement, our funding requirement to get into production. How much are you willing to prepay
to fund with us
or lend us? Such that we don't go to that reduces our equity requirement.
So basically, you got to go to the off-takers and say, "Show me the money."
Pretty much. And they're waiting for it. They're waiting for that.
They're waiting for that. And I mean, what sort of tonnage do you think is going to be produced on an annual basis? Maybe starting from a lower amount and then ramping up. What sort of quota or criteria are we talking about?
Well, look, just from first principles, because this is something you should be able to work out from our current, what's in the market, I guess, if you knew what I'm saying. So we're saying we've got 17 million tonnes. We've got a 10-year mine life. Now, let's say we mine, 14 million tonnes of that. That's 1.4 million tonnes a year per se, at around 20% grade. You're looking at sort of 200 to 250,000 tonnes of product a year. Now, that's the minerals combined. That's the ilmenite, rutile, zircon, and the garnet. And we do give indications of the relative values of those, because rutile and zircon they're worth over $1,500 a tonne. Ilmenite's probably worth $300+ a tonne at the moment, if not more, up to $400. and garnet's worth $300 to $400 a ton. So our relative mix on that, and we do have that in our, in our presentation. I don't actually have that in front of me, but you're looking at that's. I think we've indicated on the, it's sort of $50 to $60 million worth of revenue a year.
Yeah, so you're talking what, $500, $600 a ton combined material sort of thing.
It's probably a bit less than that, but it's of that. Yeah, if we're doing 200,000 tons of product and we're getting $60 million, that's implying a $300 a ton valuation.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
So it's of that order. And again, if any, okay. So that's kind of where we are. And that's a really nice project.
It's more to understand the magnitude of it, as in and how much is going to be produced. Yeah. But I was interested to see that the RNS came out. I think that you've now got the opportunity to expand this project another 12 kilometers or whatever. So what are you hoping is going to be in those situations?
Well, I think there's a couple of things just on our current licenses at the moment. We've explored less than 10% of it. Now, some of it's not suitable, and we know just on our current licenses, there's more resources to define there. And we've actually, part of our fundraise that we did in February is to fund the next stage of drilling, which we're looking to do, shortly. So in the next coming period. But don't ask me how long the assays are going to take, because that just seems to be a global issue at the moment. We're looking at ways to improve on that. But look, that is so we think we can materially increase our resource on the back of that. That's our aim. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the extra 12 Ks is just a free kick in the goal square, and that's just to the north. That's just a whole lot of resources.
Definitely an Australian term, a free kick in the goal square. That's Aussie rules terminology. Free ball at the wickets with the guy standing to the side.
It's an open goal, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
That was really pleasing, and because what the key milestone for us this year is to get our mining license, and that was one of the major milestones for that was the environmental approval, and that's from the same group who gave us the mines department, or the GSMB as they're called in Sri Lanka. So they are working to, they granted that exploration license. Things are moving forward with them. They're getting back to normal. They've had a pretty tough. Sri Lanka's had a pretty tough COVID, and it got quite dysfunctional there, and they're really getting back there. And so we're really sort of pleased with the way things are progressing there.
Yeah. So tell us, Michael. So Sri Lanka's a beautiful country, and you've got, you've talked about the environmental impact there. It's all done, and obviously you've got your exploration license. How hard is it? What's the process of getting the actual production license then, if you wanted to take it into production? And also, how welcoming are the locals to these sorts of companies? I think you're registered within Sri Lanka anyway, from looking at the website. But do they see you as being, are they on your side, basically, the locals? Because it's always a worry for these companies, for me, when you see them, mining and producing in a country that's beautiful.
Sure. Well, a couple of things is it is a beautiful place with mineral sands, and we're mining from surface. What we will be doing, and if you look at any mineral sands project around the world, and my example best is come to Perth, and on the way down to the wineries at Margaret River, you'll drive past a whole lot of beautiful countryside that you would drive past, and someone would have to point out to you that was actually a former mining area. So the point about mineral sands, you're mining the areas you mine, you extract the heavy minerals, and you put back most of it, and whether it's a beach or inland or the dunar areas or whatever we're doing, you actually fully rehabilitate it and you actually leave it better than it was.
So it's not very disruptive.
It's a very temporary disruption.
Yeah.
Whilst you're doing the mining, and it's continuously rehabilitating. It's not like a huge void, or you've got whole piles of waste everywhere and so forth. It's actually very clean. Now, when you mine mineral sands, the other point with processing, it's very standard off-the-shelf processing. You're using the physical characteristics of the minerals, because they're called heavy minerals. They are heavier than the rest of the which is primarily silica in our case. Silica is just beach sand that you're mining. They separate by spirals and gravity, and then you use further processes with electrostatic charges and magnetics to separate the minerals. So that when you say physical, it means there's no chemicals required.
Yeah,
there's no leaching or other areas where you've got larger environmental management issues there. So it's a very simple, clean process there. And again, some very, very good precedents and way you can rehabilitate and leave, as you said, you will come back to a former mining area and it'll be just as beautiful beach as other parts of Sri Lanka that we'll go to.
Yeah.
In terms of the community, that part of our environmental approval is obviously the stakeholder engagement. A large part of that is community awareness, which is ongoing. We have a site office and a full team working on that whole area. The local communities are very supportive of where we're looking to mine.
You bringing any employment into the area? Or are you bringing any?
Enormous. Yeah, no, hundreds of employees.
Yeah,
and a lot of those, they're not just low-level manual labour jobs. There'll be, the Sri Lankans are a well-educated country, so the operators, the skilled, semi-skilled, from accountants to what we call here tradies, to engineers, to vehicle operators and so forth. There's a lot of both direct employment and also indirect employment. We'll be using other services in country there to do that. Our workforce will be very, very predominantly Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
And we'll have a small expat team and they will be trainers. I mean, you could see this ultimately being completely run by Sri Lankans, and that the only reason you wouldn't do that day one is because you need to train the guys up to do it.
Sure. So let's talk about capital structure now. You're AIM listed, CMET is the ticker. You've got a market capitalisation of about just under £14 million, 189 million shares outstanding. And what I can see on the website, it seems to be about 76% of the shares are not in public hands. So let's call it 25% not available, 25% available, which means that it's very tightly held, So there's some, looking at the director dealings, there's quite a few members of the board who've got a decent stake in the company, which is obviously what we like to see. So do you want to tell us a bit about the structure and some of the bigger holders?
Yeah, so we've got, we did fund this. I think we spent over £5 million privately, putting resources, getting the environmental information lodged, doing over about 5 years of work to put that together. A lot of studies and sampling, resource estimates and so forth. And so we had a number of shareholders who are mainly out of Australia who put that together, and a European office as well. And so there a lot of those are the major shareholders when we reversed into the AIM shell, the Rule 26 company. And so that's and including the number of the directors, including myself. So we all have very meaningful stakes in this project, and we're there to drive the value. That's where we see our position is to unlock the value on this project. So we do seem to trade, you drift on low volume, but really, if anyone said, "Oh, I'd like to buy a lot," you'd have to go into the market and do that. Could be interesting. So,
to quote WH Ireland, the latest note I've seen, it says, "We continue to see fair value at 33p and will look to update our view once we see the updated economics from the development study."
Yeah, that's Paul Smith from WH Ireland. No, he's had a good look at us and he knows the industry well. So, I am supportive of that.
Yeah. Something wrong if you weren't.
CEO says the share price should be much lower.
Yeah, well, that'll be a first.
Yeah,
part of what we had our heads down, really getting a number of things worked on last year. Probably drifted on low volume, if we're honest, and probably lack of news flow, which I think you probably understand with projects like this. Sometimes they take a bit longer than you want, even though you're paddling as hard as you can, because there are things outside of your control, and that's fine, because we've got the strategy has not changed. I think it's probably expanded a bit because we've got more ground and we think there's more exciting things there that we can build on. But really, we want to get this into production as quickly as we can, and we've got all the pieces coming together for that. And we see this as our year, and that will be when the market appreciates that. I think that'll be reflected in where we go.
Yeah, I mean, your share price this time last year was 16p. It's now 7.5p. But a good comparison really is the market cap. You know, we mentioned earlier, Blue Jay is 105 million market cap. Sovereign Metals is 143 million market cap, and basically you have a 14 million pound market cap. So there seems to be a real discrepancy going on there, and obviously with the WH Ireland thing going to 33p as it stands today, seems quite a gap. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think there's, we're mismatched in the market for what we've done, and our one of the key tasks is, and we acknowledge that we need to focus on this a bit more, and that's, obviously we appreciate the chance to talk to you about this as well. As part of that is we need to get our story out there a bit more, and we believe we've worked with our brokers and other advisors, and to tell them what we're actually the exciting things that are coming up. And we're looking to get that out in the market, and I think that'll help, close that mismatch there.
I think it's safe to say that 2022 is going to be a big year for Capital Metals from looking at the news flow to come.
Yeah, exactly right, and we're looking forward to it.
You've got to ask him, Kevin. You've got to ask the question. Go on.
Yes. Okay, Michael. So you are appearing on the Sunday roast, and we have to ask this question: what would be your ideal Sunday roast?
I can tell you, I went to the. I was in the UK 2 weeks ago, and I went down to a friend who lives down in West Sussex, and I went to a Red Lion, which is probably one of 3,000 Red Lions.
3 million
probably in that county.
Yeah.
And I had the mixed roast. I had pork belly, I had lamb, and I had beef, Yorkshire pudding, cauliflower cheese, the potatoes, and a big pint of Guinness.
Smashing! That's a cracking. I do love a mixed roast.
It was. I was. And a Sunday roast in a country pub is one of the greatest things you could possibly hope to do in the UK. It's
great. With the mixed roast, I separate the meats off, put like the lamb there with the mint sauce, the beef there with a bit of horseradish, and then I have chicken with either some apple sauce or say cranberry, and it's just an explosion of flavors, isn't it?
So I was only in the UK for a bit over a week, so I didn't have a chance to sort of have them one Sunday at a time. So I had to go for it all at once. So I felt I did what I needed to do.
Yeah, you are allowed to say that you would just have a barbie on the beach. It's okay. Yeah. You get the fishing rod out and catch a few fish in the sea. Yeah, exactly. And whack them on the barbie.
Michael Frayne, CEO of Capital Metals. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Thanks.
So, what do you think? Nice guy, and it's a decent. It sounds like they've got some good prospects down there in Sri Lanka.
Very nice guy, Australian, born and bred, obviously from Perth. I think, yes.
Even I met him actually. I met him and Sandy as well, Sandy Barblett, and they're actually, I gave them I met them face to face. And they obviously recovered from that, and so they were able to speak to you. But no, I really liked it. I could just imagine the beaches in Sri Lanka, and I saw the port and all the other stuff they've got there, all paid for by the EU, which is slightly weird. But no, it looks like a really good situation. I don't normally get mining companies. It needs to be quite a lot to get me inspired. So that was, I thought, very decent.
Yeah, he said he'd met you, so
through gritted teeth. All right.
We suggested you met Zach, then have you? And you're still here. That's interesting. No, I think from a business perspective, they've obviously had to jump through many hoops. He's obviously the business has been going for 5 or 6 years, from what he was saying. So 5 or 6 years in, they've now got many of the hurdles that they've had to jump over have been jumped over. Pretty reasonable market cap, as I say, 13 million and 7.5p. And WH Ireland got a note out for 33p, which is, a market cap, I think, of 60, 70 million, I think. And, the scenario is you've got two comparisons there with Blue Jay and Sovereign Metals, which are both valued well in excess of £100 million. And as he said, they're probably further advanced in terms of production than both of those. though sovereign metals is obviously a much bigger play. Like, it's a huge resource compared to theirs. But still, this is going to be producing, as he said, $60 million per annum in 2 years' time. So that's a pretty good deal for £13 million market cap today. So that's my view on it. And yeah, very good guy. I think genuine geologist, even though he's also got a background in accounting as well. Yeah, another one of these companies that should do very, very well, you know.
So let's move on to the week then, Zach. We talked about this earlier on. KRS. What's gone on? I mean, they've done since last Friday. They've done 200%. So they're up effectively 200%. I mean, I know they increased the ownership of the Diamond Creek phosphate mine. What else do you know about them?
Well, I suppose if the phosphate mine was that good, the shares should have been rather stronger than they were before the announcement. But for me, the takeaway, apart from every dog has its day, was basically showing that there is some interest in the market. It's always good to see, as you said on many occasions, you look at the leaderboard and you see a 50% plus rise or a 100% plus rise, and he got that, and that for me was a good barometer, or at least a reassuring barometer of the market. We're higher than we were before Ukraine started, which I'm sure Mr. Putin will be delighted about. And I think that just gives us hope that things are starting to normalize, even though we've got the project fear on inflation and all the other stuff in terms of real life. So I think that was really the takeaway with that.
Yeah, and I guess phosphate is doing very well. It's very much in demand at the moment. I know they increased their position from, I think, 49% to 100%. So they've effectively doubled or just over doubled their position in that Diamond Creek ownership. But anything else stand out for you? I see POG has done very well, hasn't it? One that Albert's been touting for the last few weeks. Petropavlovsk, however you pronounce it. I'm not very good with those Russian names. I must admit, I did think that this stock may have been suspended. I mean, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, I think that's the reason. I've looked at POGs, I've looked at Polymetal as well, and you sort of just think, it's 3p or £3 now, and it can go to £8, and then you think, actually, you might say that today, and then tomorrow they just say, it's been suspended, which obviously is not a good look. So I think the risk factor there is horrific, or at least very dangerous, and it could still be the case if Ukraine goes on and on. I think that there is a risk that these companies will get further sanctions, even if it's just as a lever by Western governments or the UK government, etc. So I think that's a bit dangerous. I think there were a couple of stocks that the people, the great and the good, and the people that I talked to, the old guys, were looking at. One is Kefi, which has got about £3 million worth of stock overhang, but it's supposed to be very good. So I'm sure that'll be eaten up in a couple of years.
That's the Saudi Arabia one, isn't it?
So they're getting a
couple of years.
Yeah.
Saudi and Ethiopia, no?
Yeah.
The Saudi was done to offset Ethiopia, I think. But they're coming up with 1 and 1 equals 5 in terms of what they've got there in Saudi Arabia. Which good luck to them. Hopefully, they will have that. Obviously, these days with Ukraine, most governments are then looking internally to develop assets after the green lobbies told them not to. Which is obviously one of the reasons we had the Ukraine war, and so like the North Sea and like Alaska and all the other things that Biden initially closed down and we closed down. So Saudi, maybe on the basis of that internal resources thing after Ukraine, maybe Kefi will have its day and do a Keras. The other one, which I like, it's sort of, I suppose it's like a roast type company. Correct me if I'm wrong, is Falcon Oil and Gas, and I think they had a premium placing there. Massive resource in Northern Australia from memory. Brilliant CEO. I interviewed him a couple of times, and I was very impressed. And again, I think maybe people are coming up with 1 and 1 equals 3 on that one, but they're coming up with the time. I'm only presuming that people are saying or thinking that the company may be taken over rather than go through all the motions of developing the asset. So something like that. But anyway, Falcon looks good. It's obviously in the right gas space and strategically important in that area in Australia. So those are the two spivvy situations that I would point out.
That's the Falcon is in a bit of a fog, no?
Sorry. Yes, that one, yes. A fog of speculation.
A fog of speculation. Well, it's interesting that you said about these Russian stocks, okay? And I don't want to get on my high horse, but I really feel like they should be suspended purely because of what's going on. Like, people are being killed every day in this situation, and we're trying to have some sort of economic retribution to the Russians to not do these things, and then yet we're still trading these stocks. Yeah, hopefully people. Yeah, I don't get it. I
don't get it either, because looking at some of the stocks which have been suspended in the recent past, like AAA or Dev, or just the way that they are suspended, they seem to be suspended just for literally missing out a full stop, or not crossing a T and stuff like that. And then when it comes to Russia, which is like effectively a World War III, mini World War III situation, the companies are given the benefit of the doubt. But I think the regulators just tend to suspend stocks out of sadistic pleasure rather than actually a proper reason. But that's a different thing. But
yeah, for me, you're absolutely it's more right. Of a it's a bit of a moral, ethical call rather than anything else. And granted, I think people, quite a few people have made good money on them. Obviously, the original holders have lost a shed load. That's the downside. But I don't get it. I don't want to put my money in something that is effectively in Russia. It's not, for me. I just don't see that it's right at this moment in time.
So what about extract then? I see that there was an RNS late on Thursday of some assay results, yet more assay results. How many more holes do you think we could see from this? It's becoming a sieve, isn't it? I think it's been likened to how many holes will be drilled at the Bush Ranger project, do we think? And how long, how extract resources, how long do you think it will be?
The holy target.
I know exactly how long.
I
know exactly how long, because obviously I interview Colin Bird every morning just to say hello, really. And we have our
on speed dial.
On speed dial, and we can, we've got six companies to choose from, so that's always very enjoyable. Not only become a mining expert, I also know what's going on. But anyway, one of the interviews, Colin did say that the holes would they'd sort of call it a day in May. So whatever they've got under the table or in the bag by May, they do. So that means there's only 30 drilling days to go before that. Yeah, so I suppose it might be the end of the May.
That'll be the decision to mine / trigger the Anglo buyback. Then is what I gather from the previous RNSs.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming now that there's so much, they found so much that there have to be a consortium of Anglo-American, Rio, and BHP Billiton to step up to the plate. So there we are.
Dream scenario, that is.
Yeah.
Good.
Bidding war.
Yeah, and Extract has amazing resources other than that as well, which more than covers the share price. So how it's still only 6p or 6.3p, I'm not quite so sure. It doesn't seem to add up. It's the same really with Conroy Gold as well. We've booked our flights. We're off to Dublin in a few weeks' time to see the gold.
It's all right for some. Thanks for the invite, dudes.
Yeah,
you're welcome, Zach. We're hoping for a few rainbows and leprechauns so that we can find the pots of gold at the end in Clontrib.
Yeah, that sounds. I'll get my canoe. I'll sail from Liverpool in my canoe and see if I can beat you.
We're also going to fly to New York as well from there. We're going to go to see Adam Wilson. We're going into New York. We're having 2 nights in New York. And we're going to go to Wall Street and that, and witness a bit of that. And you've had photos taken. I think one of your famous photos is the bull in New York City. And we will also go and visit the mine at Ben's Creek in West Virginia as well. So
we're also going to see Biden as well, aren't we? We're going to the White House.
Going to the White House. We've got a meal with Biden.
Yeah. See if he wants to put some more infrastructure projects in place so that these resource plays will do even better. And then we're going to Ben's Creek.
Do you think he'll know who you are?
Who, Biden?
Yeah.
Last time I was with Obama, somebody shouted, "Who's that with? Who's that stood next to Phil Carroll?"
And he said, "It's Zach." You've had too many to drink. It's Zach Meehan.
I think Biden. I mean, God knows what goes on in his mind. I mean, you'd love to be a fly on the wall of his cranium, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
To find out, to sort of understand.
I love that statement. He put about, probably 20 hours into preparing that speech. And at the end, he ruined the whole thing by saying, "For God's sake, let's remove this man." He just came out with 6 or 7 words, which could have destroyed the whole of the world, basically humanity.
Nuclear missile would have been hurtling towards him,
Oh man, you couldn't make that up, could you?
No, it's. I think it's actually good that you've got somebody. I mean, you either have somebody mad like the Trump thing that prevents war, because the other side just thinks he could just nuke us at any minute, just out of a pressing the wrong button or the right button. And then with this guy, he could say anything and nothing would happen because nobody actually knows whether he meant to say it or not.
Exactly. And then they spent the whole next few sessions backtracking and saying, "No, he really didn't mean that. That he doesn't represent the voice of the White House, etc." All his aides were like, "No, he didn't mean that."
Who does that?
No, well, Kev's had enough. He's gone. He's just jumped out. So anything else, anything looking forward to next week? We've got it's the start of the new financial year. Obviously, we talked about this last time. We're into the April, we're into the kind of better, nicer. Let's hope we get some more money coming into the market and people topping up their ISA and the stocks and shares ISA accounts and SIPs. Do you think we'll see maybe a bit more volume coming in from that kind of point of view?
I'm hoping that, because of the tax rises, it makes people think, the national insurance and the other rip-offs that we've got. I mean, it's absolutely, we've got the worst of Labour and Conservative at the moment, the way things are. I don't think anybody can disagree with that, even Keith Starmer. Basically, it makes it more of an incentive to seek out things which don't, attract 30 or 40% tax. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable.
It's all a bit bizarre at the moment, isn't it? You've got the whole after the Partygate scandal, you've got these 20 fines been delivered or given out by the Met. Nobody really knows who they are. The Prime Minister in his question time has been pulled up on it, and he's just pretty much shrugged it off and said, "Oh well, I couldn't possibly say whether I've been given a fine," even though he said he would admit Downing Street said they would have to admit that he actually would have if he's been fined. And then you've got Andrew now walking the Queen down the aisle at the Duke of Edinburgh's memorial. I mean, is it like people have just gone, "I don't give a damn anymore"?
No, it's not that. No, it's not that, actually. It's something which has always been the case. The key to success in life is just 2 things. 1, you have to be absolutely shameless.
Yeah.
And 2, you have to be a total hypocrite. And for some reason, people who have those qualities get voted for and are respected and get on in life the most.
But do you think that's a sign of the times? I mean, if you took that back 300-400 years, that sort of thing happening, you would have caused revolutions.
I think you're right. It has changed, but in this social media age, like with the Will Smith thing, right? I mean, that kind of behavior, it's just, it is unbelievable, and it is something which it goes into that. He's just shameless. I mean, he just doesn't care.
No,
he knew he was going to win the Oscar. Who cares? And it doesn't do him any harm either. He'll probably have another $10 million movies now off the back of that. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the way to be. You just have to be. If he said, "Oh, okay, Chris, yes, that's it's very funny, but my wife's been through a lot and everything else." There was no reward for that.
No,
there's no publicity. There's no memes. There's nothing. that's the way you've got to be these days. I'm not saying I'm going to do it myself, but
I think you're right. It's like
it's a normal thing. I mean, just any situation. The people who are totally out there and do these things, those are the people who win. You go viral. You don't go viral by being polite.
People are focusing more on the Will Smith incident than they are on the things like the Ukraine situation, which is a sign of the times.
No, but the thing is that Putin, I think he changed the constitution. I mean, that once you've done that, you should not be recognised by the United Nations or whatever it is. I think as Kevin was saying, I think he said it last week. The guy in Egypt has changed the constitution. The government should just not be recognised. And also, if you invade another territory through military means, the territory is not. It's not bad. The existing lines have to remain in place. And that's it. There should be certain rules. There has to be an overview on these things. You can't have every crackpot in town doing these things. But Putin has been allowed, and he'd been nurtured to do this. It's been quite embarrassing. Syria. The Syria thing was enough, and that's still going on apparently. So
Right, now Kev's back. We'll wrap it up and call it a day, I guess.
Okay. No problems. I hope you sorted the world out while my Wi-Fi went down.
We had a good chat. We talked British politics, Russian politics, wokery, Will Smith.
We phoned up Putin and he said he was happy to resign from Monday. So that's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. And the Will Smith thing was wow. I thought that Will Smith thing was actually part of part of the entertainment. I really did think he'd sort of false smacked him, that he hadn't actually smacked him when I first saw it. And then obviously, Will got a bit upset about that.
Not a good one, but not the perfect role model, but we've all done it when we've spur of the moment, you cuff someone or whatever. I'm surprised.
I've never done that. I have never done that, Phil.
Yeah.
Philip Carroll, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Philip Carroll. I think it's really going to have affected Will Smith.
What you mean that he's got because he's now got 5 more film contracts and made an extra 100 million off the back of it?
Must be really upsetting.
I don't think he will. Do you?
Yeah.
No.
There's no such thing as bad publicity, mate. In this, we were just talking about how the more reckless you are, the more you'll succeed in this world right now.
Yeah, you've got to be. I said there's 2 things you've got to be. You've got to be shameless and you've got to be a hypocrite. And if you look at the leaders that we've got, obviously Boris Johnson is firmly in that category. I mean, I think shameless and hypocrite is a polite way of saying, you're lying and deceiving and everything else. But that's exactly what you need to be. You need to be shameless. Will Smith was shameless there. He slapped somebody in front of like 1 billion people. Didn't give a monkeys. No thought whatsoever.
Yeah,
he couldn't have said.
Well, I think at the time he slapped him, he definitely didn't have any reasoning processes going on in his brain. He couldn't possibly.
But the reason. Yeah, well, you're in front of an audience there. It doesn't matter whether you've got reasoning or not. You've got and you're actually getting an Oscar and stuff. It's responsibility towards other people, which obviously he's only thinking about himself. And that's being shameless. It's wrong. Yeah.
He was thinking about himself in relation to his relationship with his wife, which has been a big problem, obviously, in his life. She controls the situation by the looks of things.
All the explanations and everything else is that it was wrong.
Yeah, it was wrong.
Yes, no, I don't doubt it. It's wrong.
If only for children watching that, and young people watching that.
Yeah, what a comeback from Rock. This is probably the best moment in television history. Yeah. What a comment to come up with.
I must admit, Chris Rock handled it superbly. He didn't, and the man he didn't. He came out at the end, didn't he? And he said that the G.I. Jane joke, which obviously related to Jada Pinkett's hair loss, alopecia, he didn't actually know about her condition. So actually, the joke he made was just based on the looks of her. You know what I mean? It was just you've got shaved hair. Well done. You know what I mean? G.I. Jane. So that was what really stoked Will up was the and it was right. Who would take who would make a joke out of someone's a sad, unfortunate medical condition, and that's what fired up Will for sure. But yeah, as I say, and Rock probably thinks now that it wasn't even a funny joke. If it had been a funny joke like Jake Gervais would have made, it would have been funny, and Will Smith would have laughed. But it wasn't funny. It was actually quite a desperate joke. But it's kind of like an unfortunate set of circumstances that backfired fired into the mother of all reactions.
Yeah, and then the mother of all reactions is now the comedians on YouTube and on Facebook and everything else. They're saying every possible joke they can about Will Smith. It's hilarious. I watched one yesterday. It was just like, that's why I'm saying to you, you think he's going to get lots more contracts? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. It's a strange situation, I think. One we've not seen before.
Right. Well, now we've put the world to right on entertainment, geopolitics, and everything else, the markets. Have a great weekend, the rest of your Sunday, and we'll catch up next week.
Have a good holiday, Phil. You're going on holiday. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.